Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt, hospice physician, retired now, and also an author, educator, and podcast host. I'm the host of End of Life University podcast, as well as this podcast. And on End of Life University, I share interviews with people who work in lots of different areas around end of life. And so I encourage you to take a listen to that podcast if you'd be interested in learning more about all aspects of end of life care, death, dying, grief, the afterlife, funerals, and burials. Head over to End of Life University and check that out. On this podcast, I share my own spiritual thoughts and experiences that come from working with dying patients over the years and things I learned about what really matters in life and what I'm working on currently myself, the lessons I'm learning, new things I'm uncovering and discovering, and I share them with you here in case they're helpful to you as well. Today, I'm going to talk about how our attention shapes our experience. This is a companion episode with the previous 3 episodes. I'll mention those. You don't have to have listened to them in order to understand what I'm talking about here, but it might be helpful to you to go back and listen to those 3 episodes if you haven't heard them. They are episode 173, Why People See the World So Differently, which is where I share a metaphor on how different levels of consciousness are like a high-rise building. Explain that a little bit in this episode. Episode 174 is on the power of kindness, and 175 is on presence as a way of regulating our nervous system. So those 3 all pertain to what I'm talking about today, how attention shapes our experience. So to begin with, I want to just share a story with you of a recent experience that I had when I was out for an early morning walk along the boardwalk near the ocean where I live. And as I was walking along on my route, I saw a man coming toward me on the same boardwalk who seemed very unhappy. He was frustrated and upset. And I noticed that he was stopping at every trash can along the way and taking photographs. And he was taking pictures of full trash cans. They were full because it was a Monday morning. There'd been a busy weekend on the beach and lots of trash had accumulated in the trash cans. He seemed upset that the trash cans were full and was taking photographs, I think, so he could register a complaint or talk to someone about it. And it was obviously kind of ruining his day and ruining his walk on this beautiful morning out on the beach to be focusing on these cans full of trash. But I understood that. I felt compassion because it is disturbing when we see trash cans overflowing with garbage. But we just passed each other without saying anything. And just a few steps later, a short little distance further down that path, I saw the maintenance truck and the maintenance workers who were out emptying all the trash. And for the rest of my walk, every single trash can was empty. It had all been cleared away. There was nothing to be upset about, nothing to complain about. And yet, that man and we were walking the same path. We were going 2 different directions, for one thing, but we were on the same path by the same ocean on the same beautiful morning. But he could see ahead of him the trash that still remained in the trash cans and could not see what was happening behind him. All of the trash was being cleaned up and removed from the cans, exactly what he would have wanted. And it really struck me that we were having completely different experiences on our walks that morning, partly because of timing. If he had left on his walk just a few minutes later, the trash removal trucks might have beat him there and he wouldn't have seen all the trash in the trash cans. And also, if he had slowed down a little bit or stopped to pause and just looked around, he might have noticed the truck coming along behind him, removing the trash that was so disturbing. And so it was really fascinating to me. And I thought back to the metaphor of the building that I talked about several weeks ago and how It's as if we are all living on different floors of a high-rise building. The people who live on the ground floor and look out their windows, see the streets, the traffic, the noise, the trash on the sidewalk, unhoused people, they see crowds, they hear horns honking. They see a completely different view of life than, say, a person living in the penthouse on the very top of the building who actually has a perspective of the whole city, who can see beyond the city, can see mountains on the horizon, can see a river flowing by, parks. They can see so much more than just what's happening down on the street level. So the idea is when we're able to elevate ourselves and our view to a higher floor, to a higher perspective, we can see more and take in more of the view than when we're stuck on the ground floor and a lower floor. But it also occurred to me, if we follow this metaphor, we could be on the same floor. I mean, essentially, this man and I, we were walking in the very same place. We were looking at the same trash cans from opposite perspectives, from opposite directions, and seeing something completely different. And we were having completely different days. Our worlds differed so much in that moment. And if we think back to that building metaphor again, two people could be on the same floor of the building in the very same room, looking out the same window, and still see different views, still be inhabiting a different world. One person, again, might notice noise, trash, threats, scarcity, disorder. The second person standing next to them might see movement, possibility. They might see evidence of connection and healing happening in the moment, because our attention determines which view becomes our reality. What we pay attention to and what we notice can change everything. And this has to do with brain science, neuroscience. And so I want to just talk through that a little bit to emphasize this point. Our brains have to constantly filter vast amount of information in every single moment that's coming at us. The brain filters and selects what to pay attention to. So in any given moment, the brain is making decisions here and there, what's important and what deserves priority. And the brain tends to filter what the nervous system highlights, whatever our nervous system says we should pay attention to right now. If our nervous system is firing off and saying there's a threat, there's danger nearby, the brain is scanning and searching for what looks threatening, what could be dangerous to us, what might cause us harm. The brain is constantly noticing everything around us that could be dangerous. And yet, if our nervous system is calm, the brain has a little bit more latitude to notice other things in addition to the threats. Though it's important to know the brain has a preference for negative events and negative occurrences around us, because our reticular activating system is constantly trying to protect us and constantly trying to keep us safe. So the brain is on the lookout for anything dangerous or threatening at all times. And we have to try to overcome that natural function of the brain. And the other important fact to remember is that the brain forms pathways which get stronger and stronger with repetition. So what we notice more than once begins to form a pathway or a loop that replays itself over and over. Having noticed something one time makes it more likely that we'll notice it again. And you may have experienced this yourself. Say you buy a new car, you suddenly start seeing similar models everywhere you go, even though you never noticed them before. You never even realized people were driving that car before, but suddenly you see it everywhere. And that's because of the brain's reticular activating system. Again, that particular car has now been elevated in importance because you just bought one. And so the reticular activating system starts noticing it everywhere and pointing it out and bringing it to your attention. So the reticular activating system is our attention gatekeeper. And let's think about the pathway. First of all, whatever we perceive in the moment creates an emotional experience, which we then interpret, which can influence our behavior. We interpret it as good or bad, a threat or safety, and that can influence our behavior and also changes the outcome of our actions. And so there's this constant loop within our brains of our perception and perhaps noticing the same things over and over again, which can lead to a trigger, and it can lead us into a loop or a spiral of anxiety and constantly focusing on the negative unless we consciously work to overcome it. And so, another example of how this kind of loop can work is something I mentioned back in episode number 174 on kindness. When we intentionally take a kindness walk, where our goal is to search out and look for evidence of kindness everywhere around us and also to behave with kindness, we're using our reticular activating system. We already programmed it to notice kindness everywhere. And we create a pathway. We create a loop of kindness where suddenly we're seeing kindness everywhere we go in so many places because we've elevated kindness in importance for our reticular activating system. So we can use this same neural pathway as something positive to help us get out of negative and anxious loops simply by intentionally noticing something positive. And I want to emphasize that this is not the same as positive thinking. We're not trying to ignore that suffering exists. We're not trying to erase it or wipe it out of our awareness and only focus on positive things. We're trying to expand our perception so that we can see both suffering and kindness when it's around us, so that we can see the full trash can on one end of the walkway, but we can also see all the helpers who are out there emptying the trash at the same time on the other end of the walkway, and we perceive both of them. We're aware, yes, the trash looks ugly. I don't like that it's there, but there are people here working on that problem to help fix it, and it's going to get better. We don't have to spiral down into negativity or frustration if we can be aware of more than one perspective. And here's another truth from episode number 175 on presence. The more we are able to be present in a calm state in our nervous system, the more flexible our attention becomes. So the more we can maintain a regulated nervous system, the more likely we are to be able to pay attention to positive things happening around us, to see those things and notice them. And so I wanted to mention a few positive practices that you can do just to emphasize this. It's really pretty simple in each and every moment. If you notice yourself being overwhelmed with negative thoughts or spiraling into anxiety, you can really just stop for a moment. Always take a deep breath with a slow exhalation. Maybe put one hand on your heart. But choose to notice 3 neutral or pleasant things around you wherever you happen to be. And maybe you're standing in the middle of a junkyard. Maybe you're in a horrible place. Maybe you're in a hospital emergency room and chaos is happening around you. Maybe you're even in a war zone, or Viktor Frankl wrote about being in a concentration camp. But you can still choose to notice something positive around you. And it might be that you look up at the sky and see that the sun is shining. It might be that you notice a tree blooming with beautiful blossoms on it. It might be that you notice a bird flying by. It might be something very small that you notice, but no matter where you are, there are things that you can place your attention on that could be pleasant or even just neutral, but that are not total disasters like other things around you. The second practice we've already talked about is to observe kindness, and that goes back to the kindness walk, where each time you go out for a walk, tell yourself in your mind, today is a kindness walk. I'm going to look for evidence of kindness wherever I go. I'm going to see people being kind to one another. And I'm going to be kind myself toward everyone I see. The moment you do that, you'll be amazed how much kindness you can find all around you. And then a third practice is simply to ask, and this is especially if you are spiraling and if you're starting to feel really negative about the circumstance you're in, is to say, what is still possible right now? Identify any small areas you have of choice or control in the moment. And say you were on your way to an important event and you have a flat tire, and now you realize it will make you late for the event, or you might miss it altogether because you have to change this tire. And you're spinning out and spiraling because you don't want to miss the event. But it might be in that moment, if you can stay calm and stay present, you might notice someone you could flag down who can help you change the tire faster, who can help you fix the problem sooner than you thought you could by yourself. And it might be also that you'll think of some other possibilities. I'll call my friend who's on their way. I'll let them know that I'm coming. I'll have them hold a seat for me so that I can sneak in if I get there late. You think of other possibilities. You find other solutions to things when you ask this question, what is still possible right now? And while much of what happens outside of us is not under our control, we can choose our own attitude. Am I going to get upset now? Am I going to rant and rave and yell at someone or blame something else? Or am I going to stay calm in this moment and search for the best possible solution? Think of the very next best thing that I could do to make the situation better. And as long as you can ask yourself that question, what is still possible right now? That switches your brain out of that negativity loop to look for possibilities and opportunities and to see again a bigger picture than you may have seen before. It might be that you discover something that can help you out of this situation that you weren't thinking of in the moment when you were upset and you were spiraling into negativity. When you get calm, the obvious answer may appear for you. So I just want to emphasize again that this is not positive thinking or toxic positivity. Once again, we are acknowledging difficulties, but we are expanding our vision beyond the difficulties so that we can see other possibilities. And when we're in that state of recognizing multiple possibilities around us, new patterns can emerge, and that can start a ripple effect for ourselves and for other people around us as well. So let's look again at our three tools that we've been discussing. The first being presence, which is how we stabilize ourselves and our nervous system using certain practices. The second being kindness and how we relate to other people. And the third tool, our attention, how we perceive reality and what we choose to focus our attention on. And these three things become a reinforcing loop. When we develop better presence, we work on nervous system regulation so that we are more able to stay calm in difficult situations. We then become able to practice with more flexible attention. We're able to actually notice other things around us instead of the one thing that's going wrong. We're able to take in more perspectives. Once we have this flexible attention, we might begin to see things like kindness around us, which helps to improve our nervous system functioning once again, helps to stabilize us and calm us down. And that helps us become more present. So presence leads to better flexible attention, helps us notice kindness, helps us become more present again. And we create this positive loop that helps us get out of our trauma response of anxiety and negativity and also helps us discover creative solutions and possibilities that we may never have noticed before. And this positive loop and these tools are really important for us right now in the world we're living in. We are being bombarded with information right now. We're overwhelmed with it. It's coming at us from all directions. And worst of all, we cannot tell anymore what is true or not true. We don't really know what to believe, which creates even more uncertainty, which unsettles our nervous system even more and makes us anxious. And we are not sure how to process the information coming toward us. And since much of this information is negative, it triggers our threat warning system continually over and over again throughout the day. And it's one reason why we really need to manage how much we scroll through the news and through social media sites. And we have to develop better discernment to help us see, there are just certain sites and certain people who post things that I choose not to read because sometimes they are so hyperbolic and negative that they trigger something inside of me simply reading the headlines. So there are certain institutions or individuals that accounts online that I choose not to read and not to follow. I look carefully for things that feel calmer, that feel more rational, that feel sane to me, that I can read without feeling triggered inside. Because once we get triggered, we start spiraling down that loop of negativity and we lose our ability to have better perspective. And we actually even lose the ability to see positive things when they're present. But if we go online when we're reading through the news or through social media, if we intend, I'm going to look for positive things that are happening. I'm going to search that out. When I read headlines, I'm going to search for something that sounds positive, something that sounds good in the world, someone being kind, someone being of service, something good that's happening in nature or in the world in general. I'm going to search that out and make that my priority. When we can take in enough of that positive content, it can help us keep our nervous system calm down. And we may have better resilience then when we do read about something negative, something frightening, something that we're unhappy about that's happening in the world too. We just have to find our own balance there. And how do I keep from being knocked off my own path of balance? And I want to emphasize again that this is not the same as toxic positivity, because toxic positivity says there are no problems, there is nothing wrong. It says there is no trash in the trash cans by the beach. I'm not going to look at it, I refuse to see it. This is wise attention, wise noticing. And wise attention says, yes, there is trash, and yes, there are also people working to address that problem. There are problems, there is suffering, there is pain, there is grief, but there's also love and there's kindness. And there are people doing good things in the world at the same time. And I can notice both of those and hold them both and do that in whatever proportion I need in order to stay balanced in my nervous system. So we have to get to know our own nervous system, what triggers us, how touchy are we, how much negativity can we process and handle before we get thrown off. And hopefully, the more we practice with presence, the better our resilience and our tolerance will be for the negativity that's around us. So remember this bit of information from neuroscience that the brain prioritizes threat detection. Our primitive brain is designed for that. It's wired to notice negativity, to notice threats, to notice fearful things in our environment. And so we have to actively work to overcome that natural negativity bias. And we have to intentionally shift our attention. Once we know that it can work this way, once we know, oh, this is what my brain is trying to focus on, but I'm aware there's something else going on here at the same time, and I choose to notice it. I choose to look at that. I choose to think about that. I choose to read articles about good things that are happening in the world, and not so that I can ignore the negative things happening, and I'm not going to ignore them, but so that I can carry them with more equanimity. That's what keeps me open. That's what keeps me in the flow. That's what protects my health. That's what helps me be more of a problem solver with my creativity intact so that I can see possibilities and I can see where I have choices, where I could make things better in the moment. And I could serve someone else, or I could just act with kindness. I could bring joy or love to the world. So, as you navigate the current situation we're in our world, just remember these little practices for presence. Deep breathing, hand on your heart. Just take a moment to pause and slow down. Notice three positive things wherever you happen to be. Set your brain to look for those positive things. Look for kindness, look for love, look for growth, look for healing. Ask yourself what is still possible right now whenever you do find yourself spiraling or being triggered. What is still possible for me right now? And find little micro choices that you can make that will make things better for you and that will help you get back into a more regulated state and help you keep your options more open and available and help you see the possibilities and notice the kindness that's around you. So that is my message for today. And as I said before, you could go back and listen to the previous 3 episodes if you want to hear more about why people see the world so differently, about kindness and presence. And then I hope that you will find these tools helpful to you as you're navigating this world. We're going through some hard times together. It is not easy. And every day feels like a totally new mystery unfolding that we're trying to figure out. But we need to find ways to stay within ourselves, keep our frequency high, stay in a place of love, not of fear, and remember that there's still joy and kindness everywhere around us. And as I always say, we're actually here for love. We're here to bring as much love as we can to our current situation. So keep that message right at the top of your thoughts and face your fear. Be ready for whatever life brings you next and love each and every moment that you have a chance to be here. Bye bye.